Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Good morning and good evening. I'm Santosh and I heartily welcome all of you to 122nd session of Madhvacharya. Based on the feedbacks that we received from our participants, we touched upon the core topics like the 9 tenets of Madhva philosophy, which is based on Brahma Sutras and Vedas. Further, to understand more, we delve deep on knowing who is God. And with that, it's very critical to know the self, or simply putting, who am I? The last couple of workshops, we focused on healing and chanting, keeping Vishnu Sahasranama as the central theme. And we assume it brought a lot of positive energies to all those who chanted. Now, let's focus on the core topics of our Shastra. Who am I? One of the biggest questions we ask every day in our daily lives. Who am I is both philosophical and has a day-to-day significance too. The answer to this question makes us quite it has its own zone, like for example, like what is the core identity of ourselves, and the biggest questions we all ask is what is the purpose of our lives. In the daily rush of our lives, we tend to sort of put the questions down, and we just get busy in our lives. But the most irritating thing is that it keeps coming back again and again and making us frustrated too. So this e-workshop today will definitely try and answer these questions and seeking the guidance from Upanishads and Brahma Sutras. And with this little introduction, let's begin our session by welcoming our today's speaker, Sunder Madakshira. You all know that Sunder is currently working with Adobe as marketing head and also has been mentored by well-known scholars like Sri Prabhajanacharya and Sri Kantachar Payari. And I request all the viewers to actively participate. As we chat along, keep your questions handy and drop your questions in the comment section. And depending on the questions, we might extend the session more than an hour. So it really helps in questioning a lot of questions. So with this, let's begin the session. Hi Sundar, welcome to the session.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Welcome to all the participants and thanks for the welcome, Santosh. Indeed, it's a very exciting topic and a topic that has come to us again and again in many forms. In many ways, over the last 15, 16 years that we've been doing the workshop. So we've defined everything, but have we defined ourselves? And who am I is a question which probably comes to us again and again. So yes, you said it very correctly. This is a question which is probably the most relevant to us. While we keep learning a lot of topics and subjects about, about our philosophy and about our scriptures, what we see is this. Okay, I learned all this. I've heard about all this. Now, what should I do? And who am I? Is the starting or the first question that one can ask himself or herself, and then delve into that question. In today's workshop, we will delve into this topic. We will look at different aspects of who am I, and then, of course, take a lot of questions, which I'm sure the participants have. So please post in your questions, as Santosh said, in the comment section, and we will take it from there on. This topic is very vast. It is something which has been, troubling people's mind, I would say, since time immemorial. Scientists, mathematicians, physicians, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and neurologists, everybody has been trying to delve deep into this topic and the allied topics and offer a kind of a perspective that they have on this topic. So with these words, let us begin a journey which will probably last about 3 to 4 workshops, manifesting itself in different questions. But today we are here to answer a very, very fundamental question as to who am I. So, let me start by showing you something which all of us, I'm sure, see once in a while. So this is the map of the Stanford University, right? So if you go to Stanford University and you just enter this place, you will see the map of the Stanford University. Now this map I've just taken Stanford University as an example because it's a large campus. But this kind of a map you will have seen in a mall, for example, where the moment you enter, there is a map like this which talks about how the mall is organized, where is the location of the different shops which are there, and so on. You go to the first floor of the map, again you will find something like this, the second floor, and so on. Everywhere you find this, right? Now, this is all meant to give us direction into where we should be headed if we want to go to some place. So, for example, you enter a central mall and you want to go and look at where is the bookstore. So, you want to know how to reach there. But do you see something which is missing in this picture? There is something which is glaringly missing in this picture. What is that? I'll take a minute. Let me see if somebody would like to respond in the comment section. I think all of you know, when you look at a map like this, what is missing in this map? Yeah, let me make it easier for you. Let me move into that answer, which is there in the next slide. This is what is missing. Exactly. Where am I maybe missing? Exactly, Mr. Gururaj. I am here. Yes. Where am I? Location. You are here. Exactly. You've hit the nail on its head. So I myself, yes, Somabrata, right? So what does this basically tell us? It is that while the world, the universe, the God, the gods, the scriptures, there may be so many things in my life, but what is of significance to me is that while those aspects may be around me, they may be great aspects, they may be great things that I should be studying about, reading about, practicing, and trying to attain my true state of happiness. But whatever you are, wherever you are, the question is always, where am I? Right? Where am I? Who am I? How do I fit in into the larger picture? Is the question that we always have, right? We all work in organizations, we all go to schools, we all go to colleges. Everywhere we are looking for a certain identity about who we are, right? So in that sense of identity actually helps us make our decisions. So for example, people buy certain brands, people want to live in a certain location, people want to buy a certain type of car, people want to go after a certain and pursue a certain education. Everything is driven by that innate desire to find a position for himself or herself in the universe. I want to top my class. I want to become a manager. I want to become the CEO of a company. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a great housewife. I want to be a great mother. I want to be a great wife. I want to be a great husband, father, anything. But all that is stemming from a way in which we find ourselves. We are able to create an identity for ourselves. So that is the fundamental premise on which the whole workshop today is going to be premised. The world may be what it is, the universe may be what it is, but we are always looking for, in this universe, where do I find myself? And this is not an easy question to answer. Everybody has attempted to tell the answer in their own ways. But what is really common is that little effort, or I would say comparatively lesser effort, has been made to go into our scriptures and say, what do our scriptures have to talk about? Who am I? And what is my identity? Right? But if you look at the scriptures, whether it's the Bhagavata or the Ramayana or the Vedas or the Upanishads or the Brahma Sutras, have commented on this elaborately. So today we will look at the definitions, the meanings that our Shastras and scriptures have given us without probably getting into the scholastic part of it or the debate part of it. But we will talk about what do they have to offer. So let us deep dive straight into that topic about first thing, which is who am I? So the first question which comes to our mind, who am I? You know, if you ask someone, who are you? Right? So they will say, my name is so and so. Right? So our first identity that we have is, who am I? Is my name. So they say, okay, your name is so and so, but who are you? So then they say, no, I'm so and so's son. When kids they talk are young, they actually talk about their parents. So they give that identity. I'm so and so's son because that's a big scope of identity for them. Then they talk about the schools, their colleges. And you ask somebody who's a working professional, who is he? The first thing that probably comes in their mind is I am so and so and I work with so and so company, right? That becomes our identity. Then, as on the personal front, people grow up, they are children, the sons, daughters, so on. They grow up, then they get married, and a new set of relationships come. And with that, you try to establish a new identity for yourself. Let us say there's a person, he's got married to somebody who is the vice chancellor's daughter. So you ask him what is his identity, he will say, I am this vice chancellor's son-in-law, right? So that becomes his new identity. So every time our identity keeps on changing, but the question which keeps coming to us is, after all this, is still the same question which we started with, which is, who am I really? When I say I, what do I really mean by that? So am I my, we all have this experience. Am I my body, or am I my brain, or am I the sense of ego that we all have? And we have, or am I my mind, or am I something else? Okay. So first, let us look at, am I my body? Are we all our body? The answer to this is very simple, right? Of course, there's a very famous shloka in Bhagavad Gita which actually differentiates the soul and the God. But we are not getting into that shloka. We are just understanding the meaning of that shloka in a very simple way, which is, let us say there's a small, it's very unfortunate, some small nail has got into your, has got into your leg, in your feet. So you say, my leg is hurting, or you have banged your hand into something and your hand is aching. What do you say? My hand is aching, or my head is aching, or a pin has pricked my feet. So at that time, you're clear that it is your body which is feeling the pain, right? So you are able to differentiate that me, I am there, and then there's my leg. So you are able to see the distance. That means you are not the body. The body is encapsulating something which is there, right? So we are not the body. Although body also happens to be something which gives us identity. How? We'll come to that in a minute. So we are not our body. There is something else. After the body, we will go into something called, okay, maybe I am my brain, right? So am I my brain? So there is, the moment you think about the brain, it is about the intellect, the ability of your body to, sort of process information is being done by someone. Someone is telling you what to do by thinking. But we are not our brain either, because just think about this: 5 o'clock in the morning, the alarm in front of you just goes, it starts ringing. 5 o'clock, you say, my God, I shouldn't be, it's too early for, look at the weather, it's so cold, I can't be awake, and you put off the alarm and go back to sleep. So your intellect, though it is telling you that no, you should get up, you should do some exercises, and then do your morning prayers, and then get into your job, or you're going to your college, or you have to study, do whatever you need to do. It's better done if you wake up early in the morning. We all know that. So intellect is saying something, and we're doing something else. That means intellect is different. What our brain is telling us and what we're doing are different. So again, it is, we are not the body, we are not the brain. The third one is ego, which is not ego in that negative sense, but ego, which is a summation of all our beliefs, truths, untruths, etc., which provides us a kind of a protection to us, because with that we are able to articulate ourselves. But is ego also something that is us? No, because when all this is happening, we are able to see ourselves different from ego. So the moment you are able to see the difference, it means that is not you, right? So you say, people say, where are you? You say, I am at home. That means you are different from whom, because you are able to see the difference. So again, ego is not us. The last layer which we find, okay, finally it's my mind. It is my mind. So why don't I say I am my mind? Unfortunately, even that is not true, because whatever our mind says is also something that we are able to see, that there is a difference. See, my mind is playing games with me, we say that, because again your mind is processing things differently. Is that really is that person really that bad, or is it my mind which is saying? You say that means you are again moving yourself away from that situation or that environment, and able to see that you are different from that mind. So therefore all these other things that we talked about, the body, the brain, the ego, and the mind, all of them together are not something that's equivalent to you, because at all times you are able to see the difference. So therefore mind is not body, mind is not us, body is not us, ego is not us, so on. So what is us then? That is when the Upanishads give a beautiful answer, which is we are the soul. So there is something which is minuscule in size, and we'll talk about it in a minute, which is there within us, which is called the soul, or what we call as jiva. And the jiva, the soul, has its own nature, which is called the jiva swarupa. So first acknowledgement that we need to have is that I am actually the soul, right? The second thing for us to learn is that soul, as as the Upanishads say very clearly, and the Brahma Sutras talk about it at great length, is Ananda Swarupa, Gnanananda Swarupa. That means the basic nature of our soul is to be happy, right? It is full of happiness. But when the soul comes into this world, it comes in contact with the body, obviously, because it has to come out in some form, and it has its senses, and then with those senses we are able to connect to the rest of the world. And that is when there is like a cover or avarana, as our shastras say, which then engulfs us, and we are not able to see that true happiness or feel that true happiness within ourselves, right? I will explain that in a little more detail shortly. So the question which begs all of us immediately is, yes, if that Ananda is there within us, why do we struggle? Why do we have challenges? We feel sorrow. Sometimes we feel more sorrow than happiness. If that is our true nature, shouldn't we be feeling happy all the time? And that is the crux of what we call a sadhana, the ability of our body and our soul to be able to constantly move and unravel the happiness which is there within us, is what is called the sadhana. And there are many methods to do it. We will come to it shortly. But here are a few takeaways for all of us from this slide, which is number one: we are not the body, we are not the mind, we are not the ego. We are actually the soul. That's a key takeaway. The second takeaway is that there is happiness in all of us, right? Of course, as we know, souls are three types: Satvika, Rajasa, and Tamasika. But Shastras clearly say that while the soul is of three types, we assume in this case that all the people are Satvikas, and people who actually who have Ananda or the happiness within us. So that is a second takeaway, that the happiness is there. Where? Within us. The happiness is there within us. So there is no way we can do anything outside of us to get that happiness. You may say, no, I don't agree with this. What are you saying? This is not true at all. I went and I had a great dish yesterday, which is my favorite dish, and I felt very happy. And the dish comes from outside, it's not within me. So, yes, that is also happiness. But is it the true lasting happiness, which we call as bliss? Is that what it is? Do you feel elated for forever? No, you took it, you ate it, you had it for some time, you felt good for a few minutes, for a few moments. But then after that, back to square one. After some time, you've even forgotten that you've eaten it. So the Shastras and our scriptures clearly define what is happiness. So whenever we talk about happiness in the Shastric sense, it is always meant to be moksha or salvation or that state of eternal bliss. Bliss is different from happiness. Happiness is different from titillation. Titillation is something extremely temporary, right? You add a chocolate, you feel energized. You actually get a sugar shot, you feel very happy. So that is called titillation. It's over, right? You heard a song, it stays with you for a few moments and it goes away. That is happiness. But everlasting happiness does not come from outside, it comes from inside. So let's jump to the next topic, that having defined where happiness actually resides, let us see the next steps in that journey. So, which brings us to the next question: what is my identity? You said we are the soul. Fine, it's the soul. But what is our identity? If you look at the picture on the right side, it looks like the fingerprint, which is unique to every individual. But it's actually a human face, which is it is our identity which makes us. So we have different identities, as we already discussed. But the moment, how do I get my first identity, which is that of a body, is when I was born. So I have, when I was born, I got the first identity where my soul was inside a body. So I come into this world because of a certain body. I'm sitting inside the body, like I'm sitting inside a car and going somewhere. That's my first identity, right? It's like this. Let's say your friends are waiting for you, and you arrive in a car. They look at the car at a distance and say, "Oh my God, this person has already come." It is they are not able to see you, but they're able to see the car and say that you are coming because they're assuming you are inside the car. Similarly, the soul. When people look at us, the world looks at us, they say, yes, you are so and so, but you are actually the soul. So that's the first thing, that we were born and we had a body and the soul becomes a part of it. Okay. The next one, which I realize about myself, and that's my identity, is I am completely dependent. I am not independent. I do not have that independence in the absolute sense, right? So we say, no, look at this. I'm living in a free country. I can do whatever I want. Sorry, you can't do whatever you want. The fact is, as people, as human beings, we are always dependent on other people, always dependent on a lot of other things for us to be functional, right? This is not hard to explain. Yes, the country may be independent from ruling by people from some other country. That's when we say in a country is independent. But for a human being, he is definitely has limited independence with which he can do a lot of things, and that's a crux. Just because we are not become thorough fully independent doesn't mean that we can't do anything. Yes, how God has given us some kind of a limited independence to do what we want, and we will come to that at the end of this workshop when we talk about what do we really need to do after we have learned all these aspects. But it is important for us to recognize the fact that as the soul, we are completely dependent on an independent entity. And everything that we do is being guided, is being energized, and it is being purposed by another entity. And that entity is none other than Brahman or Lord Vishnu. It is not anybody else. It is that power which is controlling us. And we are completely dependent on them, right? So this is the thinking about the second realization that I have. The third thing I have is that I am indestructible, right? So something in me tells me that while the body goes away, and it's very clearly mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita that the soul does not get destroyed. It is always there, it will always be there. So therefore, I have a sense of continuity. Everything does not have to happen in this birth. It will not happen in birth. Our time that we live in this world is extremely limited. Let assuming that some of us live 100 years. 100 years may be a very long time, but it is not even a speck in the infinite spans or spectrum of time, right? So therefore, it is very clear to us that we have limited time here, and we are somebody who cannot be destroyed. And I think the screen is frozen. Yeah. So I'm indestructible. At the same time, the soul. So we all ask this question: where is the soul? Right? So we have not seen the soul. Nobody has seen the soul. How do we even believe that there is a soul? It's simple, and you can go to YouTube and watch a lot of videos, and a lot of research has been done on this topic for many years, saying there's a person who is alive, and there's a person, after some time that person dies. What is the difference between the two of them, right? It is absolutely impossible for us to gauge what's the difference. Just that we know, we say the heartbeat has stopped, or the brain has died, or vital organs have failed, and the doctor checks the person and declares the person dead. But what's the difference between the two is been a topic of intense study in the medical field. While it has not been, sort of categorically explained as to what really happens, the scriptures actually talk about it in a very nice way. What has happened is the jiva, which is there inside that body, has left, and Lord Sri Hari, who is there inside, Lord Narayana, who is there inside, also decided to leave the body. So therefore, the body has been declared dead. So no matter how, what happens to a person, let us say somebody goes blind, he's not dead. Somebody loses a limb, unfortunately, he's still not dead. Somebody has a skin problem, he's not dead. Somebody loses his mind, which is he has some mental problems, even then the person is not dead. The person, when he is died, when the soul or the jiva within him actually moves out, the heartbeat is just a manifestation of that jiva being there or not being there. So of course the study will not stop here, it will go on for a longer time in terms of telling us how this actually, what is the difference between a person who alive or dead from a physical or medical perspective. So therefore, the Upanishads clearly talk about where the soul rests. The soul rests in the heart. It is seated deep in the heart in a small vacuum inside the body. It is very, very small. The jiva is very, very small. And within that jiva, there is Paramatma, or God is inside the soul in an even more tiny format, right? And that even in that place, God is complete. Even in that small tiny and invisible form, it also, God is somebody who is complete, whereas the soul is not complete, but he is there inside that. But though the soul is there inside in such a tiny spot, the presence of the soul is felt throughout the body. So when you look at a person who is dead, every part of the body becomes dysfunctional. Progressively, you'll see manifestation of that happening in every way. So this means our body has got had that soul, and now that soul is gone away. But when the soul is there inside, the soul has an influence, has an energizing influence in every part of our body. That is why, the Shastras say it. They give the example of aloka. That means a lamp. A lamp is lit in one part of the house, but it actually spreads that light all over the house and provides light in every part, though it is kept in one part. Similarly, is the nature of the soul as well. So what we've seen till now is that we have defined ourselves as a soul. We are a dependent entity. We are dependent on a higher source of power for whatever we have to do. So therefore, We and that higher source are not the same. So Jiva and Brahma are different. They remain different here. They will remain different forever. But the best part of this whole thing is there is deep happiness. There is a lot of happiness. There is a lot of knowledge which is residing within us. And we need to know how we will channelize that huge amount of happiness that is there. So these are two things that we have covered broadly. Let us move to the next topic, which is therefore, what should be my purpose? What should be my goal in my life? So when we define our purpose, we say, look, I need to do my education. I need to, then, earn money. I need to be in this profession. I need to do very well in my, I want to be a great doctor. I'm already a doctor. Let us say I want to be a better doctor. I want to be an architect. I want to be in the government. I want to bring up a big family. I want to take care of my children and so on. So we have all have our own ways in which we define our purpose, and which is a right purpose as well. But here, before we start on that, what do we want to define? We want to define a state which is again said in our scriptures already, which is moksha or salvation. What do we want to do? What we want to do here is we want to be in a state of bliss, correct? Irrespective of what everybody who is watching this now, they may be in different professions, they may be in different geographies, they may be of different age groups, and they may be having different aspirations. But one common aspiration amongst all of us is that natural urge or natural desire to be happy. We have a natural desire to be happy, and we have a natural repulsion to be having unhappiness or sorrow in our life. Right? So Sri Jaitirtha beautifully explains this, saying that the body, the mind, or whatever we want to call ourselves, the soul, never wants to be in that state of unhappiness. It wants to be in a state of permanent happiness. Let us say, simple thing, somebody says, wakes up in the morning, and we tell that person, you know what, today we have to go for and take our COVID vaccine. The moment you say that, people will say, oh, no, today, we will, today it's so rainy, we go tomorrow. So people say, no, it's such a small vaccination. You will not even know that they have put it. Don't be worried. That person tries everything possible in his reasons of excuses in that long list that he has to avoid vaccination, right? So imagine our mind. It doesn't want to take even that smallest piece of time that it has a pain. Though we know the importance, all of us know the importance of taking the vaccination. We want to take it, but we don't want to take that small prick. Like they say that everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die, right? So that is the situation. We don't want that state of unhappiness. Now we already define happiness is different from what we are calling as bliss. What is that state of higher level of happiness, which is which is more permanent, which fills us with a sense of fulfillment, irrespective of what is happening outside. This place or Ananda is comes from within me, not outside. And our Shastras give many examples. The simplest example that is given is water inside the well. So we said that the soul inherently has Ananda. It is there within the soul. But unfortunately, there are layers and layers and layers which have got formed of lack of knowledge or ajnana or viparita gnana, which is creating these layers and stopping that from coming out. It is very clear to all of us. We've all seen water in a well or in a bore well. Why is that water not visible to us? Because it's embedded there. The moment you are able to cut through those rocks and go inside and hit with those pipes and suck the water, you see such a big water stream was right on top of where you were standing all these years, and you didn't even know. Same thing happens to us. The moment we want to get happiness, the moment we want to seek happiness, What is our first instinct? What should I do? Where should I go? What should I buy? Whom should I talk to? Who's going to give me happiness? Correct? We never look at ourselves and say, okay, today I'm going to sit and think about what is going to make me happy. Therefore, I think we need to spend some time thinking what gives us that bliss, what gives us that state of happiness, which unfortunately, we have lost track of. That is how we were born. Look at a child when it's born. It's full of happiness, full of curiosity, full of that infinite energy that it has. Always looking for things, always looking to laugh. So easy to laugh. It's very easy to make children laugh. That is because they have not yet got engulfed in that state of the state of the world. We always say, he that person has a childlike innocence. So where did we lose that innocence? And what happened because of which that happiness, we do not feel that. Most people, unfortunately, in this world are today living very unhappy lives. This is the life that we have. And if we decide that we want to live the rest of our life in that unhappiness, then it is going to be something which is going to be continuous. But if we decide that today, no, that happiness is within me, I don't have to seek anything outside, then we can all decide to be happy and make efforts towards unlocking that happiness from within, right? So let us say, you're standing outside and it's raining very heavily. And there's a lot of water which is flowing. The water keeps flowing, right? Do you take that water which is flowing on the street and drink it? You say, no, no, it's not pure. It's very dirty. It doesn't. But the same water, when it goes inside and comes up through within the earth, then we say this is drinking water. This is the well water, right? So it is potable. You can drink it. So if we can't get this kind of a purity, how will we get this kind of knowledge which is embedded within us? And we need to figure out a way of getting that happiness, and that comes with a certain sadhana. So we have spent a lot of time creating more and more obstacles for this water to come out of the borewell. Now we need to spend time to ensure that that is broken. How do you break that? You put those pipes and the borewell grinds it, just rips apart that of the rocks which are there and penetrates to it. You see how much of effort is put. Imagine if that's the effort one has to put to get water, which is a physical being. It's a jada padartha, as we call it, non-sentient, non-living being. Imagine how much of effort that we have to put, which has created these obstacles from our happiness, from getting that happiness which is there within us. So if we can do that, we can pursue that path of sadhana, we will never be in that state of unhappiness. Let us say, all of us decide to go to a destination, our favorite destination. It's not just the destination, it's also the journey which is enjoyable, right? So we get up in the morning, 3 o'clock, people wake up, 4 o'clock, they are sitting in a taxi going to catch a flight at 6 o'clock in the morning. Why? They do that because they are going on a holiday. Imagine you have to do the same thing to go to do your official work. You'll sit and curse. You'll say, oh my God, I don't want to do this. But now you're doing it. You're going with your family. You're going on a vacation. Imagine how happy you are in that state. That is also the effort that you're putting in both these cases is not different. It is that happiness that you are getting out of going there that is different in both these cases. Second, if it is your work, you're probably doing it because you're saying, oh my God, I have no choice, I have to go. Somebody has called me for a meeting, I have to go. I'm not liking it, but I have to go. That's my job. So you're doing it forcibly. But in this case, that happiness is coming from elsewhere. It's coming within you, right? All of us, we don't need any philosophy to understand this. How many of us would like to watch a film alone? None of us like to do it. We want to be with our friends, with our families when we're watching it. We go to a shop, somebody gives us a chocolate. Do we feel like eating it? No. You say, I've got children at home. I've got young children, in my neighborhood. I'd like to give it to them. You don't like to eat it. You can't eat a chocolate all by yourself. You can't eat anything or enjoy anything ourselves because we want to share that happiness. So therefore, we have to clearly define what gives us happiness. If eating a sweet was all that would have given you happiness, you would never have thought of sharing it. You'll get lesser sweet because you're sharing it. But yet, you get that satisfaction that you've shared it. So, therefore, the happiness is not coming from anything that's external, it's coming from something which is internal. You're a student, you're studying, 12 o'clock in the night, you're grinding through a mathematical problem, you're not getting it. Suddenly, you get a brainwave and you're about to go to sleep, very disappointed that you could not crack that question, but you got it at the nick of time. And then suddenly you see that your body is energized. You wake up and say, yes, I've cracked it. That happiness that you get, and that happiness that you get probably by sharing this with your friends that you cracked it, is something all of us have undergone in our lives. And when you roll back, you see that happiness has come from within, the happiness has come from that knowledge. So, this worldly knowledge can give us that kind of happiness. What can the spiritual knowledge, knowing about the ultimate God, ultimate Lord, the Parabrahman, Lord Vishnu, knowing about Him, who is the source of infinite happiness, knowing about Him, how much of happiness it will give us? And that happiness is what we call bliss in this world itself. We don't have to wait for moksha. Moksha will come. But till such time that we get it, we can get glimpses of that happiness by studying our scriptures and getting deep into understanding God, the world around us. When we read about the God, about His great qualities, about the structure of the universe, our dependency on the God, the limitation of the world, limitation of the relationships that we have, we know to set expectations from ourselves. This is not, philosophy does not make us a dejected, depressive person. It actually makes us energized because we know, yes, will we be still a happy person if somebody goes and buys a new car? He will definitely be happy. But a philosophical person knows that this happiness which has come to him has its own limitation. Yes, he's very happy, he likes to celebrate, but knowing fully that this is not the idea of the ultimate happiness. 3 days after a new car has come, it has already become an old car. So that happiness was very short lived. So there is that source of infinite happiness that we need to tap into to get to that state of bliss. So always think about how you are going to be in that state of bliss. Because remember, again, I'm reiterating this point. The basic nature of our soul is that he's Gnananandamaya. The soul is Gnananandamaya, Gnana and Ananda, full of happiness, full of knowledge. It is we who are stopping it by creating more and more layers, that is coming in the way of being us. So when you say why is somebody not happy, it is because of that person and his ability to be happy, right? So yeah, we'll move to the next topic, Santosh. So we've defined who I am, but let us also define very clearly who I'm not. I am not God. The soul is not God. The God is in the soul, but soul is not God. It's our personal experience. We have never felt that we are completely independent of everything around us. We have never felt infinitely powerful. We know every time that we look at around the world around us and look at ourselves, it only talks about our limitation. Whereas God is someone who's full of great qualities, completely free of defect. Are we free of defect? We got hundreds of defects, thousands, infinite set of defects. Everything that we do has got huge set of mistakes. But that never stops you from seeking that perfect God. I'm trying to and pray to Him. So what I'm not is I am not Brahman. So Jiva and Brahman are never the same. Not now, not ever. The second thing, so people, there is a belief that, after some time, after you get the true knowledge, it is because of ajnana that you have not realized that you are Brahman. Once that cover of ajnana, or it's like a wrapping around you. Once you've broken those shackles, you will realize you are Brahman. No, once you have the shackles are broken, you will only realize that Brahman is the independent entity and you are dependent entity. That is what is going to happen. It will not be that we will become the God himself. That does not happen. Second thing is, I live in a world which is real. This world around me, the soul that I am there, is not an illusion. It is temporary, but it's not an illusion. There's a big difference. Temporary. Look at the world around us, it keeps on changing. New buildings come up, new people come in, old people, pass away, unfortunately. We see all these changes that are happening. But the weathers change, everything keeps on changing around us. So the world around us is definitely temporary, but it is not an illusion. The world is very much there. We are all living in a world. So whatever I do counts. Imagine you're studying in a university, and they say tomorrow they say, oh no, this university itself is an illusion. It's not a real university. It's not even it's not accepted by the AICTE. What happens at that time is that the whole effort that we have put will go away. Our effort is not something like that. Our effort counts, and that's the best part of empowerment, because God has given us the power to work towards things towards that state of bliss in a prescribed form. The whole scriptures is all about what is the nature of God, what is the nature of the soul, and how does one experience the presence of God, experience that state of bliss. That is the whole purpose. And that is reiterated again and again and again in different formats. But this path is very clear, which is that to be in that state of eternal bliss, one will have to work towards it. So we live in a real world. I live in a real world which is not an illusion, and I cannot get absolute independence. That there is no such concept in this world. Forget about scriptures. This does not need any more explanation. We go on the street in my car saying, "This is my car. I have paid the road tax. I can go wherever I want." No, you have to keep left. You have to follow the traffic rules. If there is a red, you jolly well will have to stand there. And so there is no question of independence. We are always dependent on a lot of things, and we are completely dependent on God for a number of things, for everything in our lives, for our existence, for our progress, for our purpose, and of course for our happiness. But I am never alone and helpless. This is a very big learning that comes from our study of our scriptures, saying that yes, I have a boss, I have somebody who's always protecting me, and I have my best friend, and God is my best friend. So the soul's best friend is God. Why? Because he is the source of infinite knowledge. He is the source of infinite happiness. So he's my best friend. So we always say this, I went into that office and I could get my job done. You know why? The person who is the chief manager in that bank, I know him very well. He got it done. He's my best friend. He will get it done for me. Right? Somebody says, no, I was not getting a vaccine. A friend is a doctor. He informed me the day the vaccines came to his hospital, and I immediately got the vaccine. So imagine, with such a limited influence that we have about one friend, we feel so secure. We feel in the middle of a community. I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of relatives, a lot of cousins, but all of them have their own limitations. They're all nice people, they're all my friends. They are my best well wishers, but they all have limitations. Children are brought up by their parents. Parents take care of their children and fend for all their needs. But to what extent? They can put them in a good school. Can they get admission in the best college for them? No. Can they get them a job? Probably in some cases. Can they ensure that they are with the child at all points in time? No. All of us have had this experience, either as parents or children, for sure, that even the on the first day of the school, when the child goes to kindergarten, the mother has to leave the child inside the school, right? No way she can go inside. The school will say, no, no, please don't come. Because if you keep coming, the child will never leave you, right? And the child is crying, mother is crying, everybody's crying. We all know this. But at that point in time, there is somebody who's there with that child. And that child, that friend, the best friend, is nowhere else. It's right inside us. The Lakshmi Hridaya and the Narayana Hridaya Stotras clearly talk about this concept very clearly because it is mentioned in all the scriptures. The God is there in the Dahara, Akasha. There's a small, tiny little space. Akasha meaning space. And inside that, there is there is God who is staying there. And He's controlling everything. And even in that space, He is Paripurna. That means He's complete in all respect and He's guiding every activity. So when we have God sitting there, and when we have God in every part of our body, and we don't have to call Him. That's the best part. Whenever you're in trouble, you say, I've called my best friend. You don't have to call. The person is there right inside you, and he's not even a call away. You think about him, and he's there to help us. So why should we feel insecure? Why should we feel depressed? There is God inside us with infinite potential to give us that great happiness and that state of bliss. We just have to ask Him, and the right way to ask Him is to pray to Him. That is it. Yeah. We can move to the next one. So God is my best friend, and He is always with me. That is something we have said. So with that, let's come to the last but very, very important part, which is what should I do? I've learned all this. What should I do? The first thing is awareness and recognition that I am the soul. So when you talk about yourself, yes, you are the father, you're the mother, you are so and so, you got a name, you got a designation, you got an identity, we got multiple identities. But at the base, we are nothing but the soul. The second one is define what gives you that happiness. Now, this is an exercise that we all have to do. We all have to do this. And unfortunately, we don't do this well enough at least, which is understanding and determining what gives us that state of happiness and what gives us that state of bliss. It is very, very important to define it for ourselves. How do we do that? I will come to that in a minute. Spend more time doing things which give you bliss. Very simple things. Once you've decided that this is what gives me that happiness, it could be studying of the scriptures, it could be listening to a lecture like this, it could be something which is deep. And that's why I say you should do bliss, because the things which are around you, which are which are materialistic and external, cannot give you that bliss. So you have to look at something that gives you bliss from within. So what is it that gives you that happiness and the bliss from within? Is it serving someone? Is it feeding somebody who's hungry? Is it catering to the needy? Is it taking care of the old? Whatever it could be anything. And for that, you have to do that introspection to understand that in greater detail. That is what gives you bliss. And to be able to do that, you have to do more time, spend more time doing it. So in a day, what do? We do things that we probably don't want to do 23 and a half hours. And 30 minutes we say, oh my God, okay, I have the book. I really want to read this book, but I don't have time. If you really want something, you just have to stop doing things which you don't want to do, or reduce it. And again, this does not mean one has to run away to a forest. That state of bliss can come right here, in your home, in your room. You don't have to go anywhere. Yes, those are prescribed methods for meditation, but when we are in this world, we have certain worldly duties, and we can and we should attempt to get that state of bliss. We always say this: I always wanted to learn music. What is stopping you from doing it? Why are you always thinking about learning music? Why don't you go make time for it and learn music? Because world life is short. So we have to do things that we like. and something that gives us bliss, and make time for it. If there are things that are stopping you, reduce on certain things, on certain other activities. If you can't learn music 7 days a week, learn how to do it 2 days a week, 1 day a week. Even that will take you towards that state of bliss, which will connect you, which is your method probably of connecting to the higher soul. So I think the starting step is clearly meditating at least for 30 minutes in a day, right? And let's start with that. And that is what we need to, move on as we go, because meditation is something which has got a unique perspective. And I was listening to more researchers on the brain. We always say, you should do meditation because to get you to the present. Unfortunately, our brain will never let us be in the present. The brain is tuned so that it can always look at the future and protect us from any danger. So we're always thinking, what should I do so that I don't get into trouble? That's the nature of our brain. It's nothing to do with us, it's just the way our brain is constructed. And to do that, it's always going into the past, because saying, okay, what can I learn from the past which will help me to ensure that I don't get into trouble in the future. So once, let us say you made some mistake, uh, you decided to take a taxi and not drive in your own car to go to the airport, and then you miss the flight. So what do? You say, oh no, I should never do this. I should always, drive my own car. Otherwise, I'll miss the flight. So therefore, I'm giving one example, but our brain sort of constructs this over and over again. So therefore, meditation helps us. That is what is called Shavana Marana Nididhyasana. So Shavana meaning listening, and not just listening, it's reading and every form of knowledge acquisition, which is Shamana. Manana means you sit and contemplate about it. So what does this what does this really mean? What does it tell me about myself? What does it tell about God? Which direction am I headed to? So it is proven now that 15 minutes of meditation in the morning, 15 minutes of the meditation in the evening makes you an extremely productive person. Now you might be wondering, where did this thing about productivity come suddenly? It makes you productive simply because in that time, that meditation will tell you what are your priorities, what are those things which give you that state of happiness, and you start moving towards that. So therefore you become more productive, because once you're happy, once you know whatever, I'm doing this and I'm very very conscious of this, when you start doing something like that, things become much simpler for you. So therefore, instead of working very very hard all 24 hours, please make 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening to do this meditation. And it's my own experience that if you do this for 90 consecutive days, we see remarkable understanding of ourselves. It is this question about who am I at a very fundamental level is becomes very clear to you. So once that becomes very clear to you, your ability to make decisions, your ability to overcome doubts and dilemmas just dies down. Should I go here? Should I go there? No, I'm clear. I know where I'm supposed to go, right? So you have a GPS which will tell you where you need to go, what's the path you need to follow. But for that GPS to be right, what do you have to do? You have to set the destination first. If you don't set your destination, imagine, can GPS help you? It cannot help you. So that GPS, which takes us towards our destination, is nothing but our scriptures, our Upanishads, our Brahma Sutras, the Mahabharata, Ramayana have got lessons which are far, far ahead of what the modern day science is suggesting to us. When you read this, when you read it for yourself, you'll realize that what a beautiful path this has been, and why was I not reading all this all along? So someday science probably will catch up and give us a lot more tools and techniques to be able to do that. So I just want to read the steps. The print is very small, so I'll read it. So meditation and contemplate, very important. Then from there you come to what situations, people, and topics help you be at your best. What are those situations? who are the people that you like to work with? What's the nature of that work which gives you your best? So let us say you're doing two projects. There's one project which is very attractive to you, another project which is not attractive to you. How do you, so you automatically start spending more time in the ones that gives you more happiness, more satisfaction, because you believe that that is where you're going to be successful. The other one you're trying to avoid, you're trying to go slow and just get over with. Oh my god, I have to do this, I get over this. So progressively, if you are clearer about what makes you happy and what makes you successful, you will start doing more of that. And then you can even ask the organization that you're going working with, the people you're working with, saying, look, that is what I want to do more. But unfortunately, most of the time we are not even clear what do we really want to do and what gives us that state of happiness. Other thing is, what are those situations, peoples, and topics which do not give you that happiness, or which make you feel uncomfortable? So when you have to make a choice about what you want to do, you can sort of avoid them. Then move towards that positive environment. As I said, ask this question: what gives me bliss? So there's something which gives you happiness, and there is something which gives you bliss, and validate through that, through deep thinking. Now, I'm saying this specifically when I was putting this step process. I was just thinking, a lot of people come to us, a lot of people discuss with us, saying that, what, I'm fed up of this world. I want to go away into a forest, or I want to settle down in the Himalayas. Many of these thoughts are very impractical, and it is taking away from the duties that we have in this world. Now, Arjuna was obviously a very, very peace loving person. Though he was a great archer, a great warrior, he did not want to fight the war and cause so much of destruction around him, because he knew this is like a decisive war. But despite that, Krishna tells him to do it because that is his duty. That is what his soul is meant for. So, who am I? Arjuna, in that case, is a warrior. He is a Kshatriya, and the first job of a Kshatriya is not to fight a war, but to establish Dharma. And in this case, all options have been exhausted. He has to fight the war. So, therefore, there's a message for all of us. If we want to be in that state of bliss, we have to perform our duties and go after those things that we are ordained to do, right? And last thing, Santosh, if you could bring it up, is spend more time in doing that one thing that gives you that state of happiness. So these are things that one should do. So with that, we will move to the question answer session. But before that, quick summary of this entire workshop would be that in our minds, what we need to understand is that when I say who am I, it is that I am a soul who is there, and that soul has happiness and knowledge inherently. There are obviously barriers which are there all around us. Through the knowledge and study of our scriptures, we get a better understanding of how to break those shackles. It is like playing a video game. You're stuck in the middle of a fortress, and how do you sort of come up? Is all through your knowledge and your execution of those plans and actions that you take. And once you are able to come out of it, you will experience that happiness and bliss. And bliss and happiness is something that comes within us. To reach that, the most recommended format is to meditate at least 30 minutes a day and get into that sphere of contemplation. This is by far one of the best tools that everybody, scientists, doctors, engineers, and our age-old scriptures prescribe as a way to experience that eternal bliss. So I'll take a pause. I know there are a few questions, and I will defer it to Santosh to take us through what are those questions.
Thanks, Sunder. And this is for all the participants. We have in the Q&A section. So request all the participants to ask questions, more questions, in fact, so we can answer those. Sundar, I personally have a couple of questions. One is because since most of the people have multiple identities, so how do we like sort of define that this is my identity? Say, how do I filter that into? as to know that this is my major identity or predominant identity.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good question, Santosh. See, we all have multiple identities, but there are when we start to do certain things, right? Then and when we have that identity and we explore that identity, let us say somebody says, I'm a father, right? I just want to be the best father in the world, and then he starts the parenting process, and he dwells on that topic. He will come to know whether he's on the right path simply by looking at saying, okay, is this what I want to do? Right? If that answer is yes, that is his identity and he should pursue that. And what happens is many times we have a rather imaginative picture about who we really are, right? That may not be the case. So let me give an example. There are a lot of people who have this question in their mind: should I go abroad? Right? Simple question. Should I be here or should I go to another country? The answer to that is very clear. What have been your experiences either that country or this country? You compare the two, and you should decide what is going to give you that happiness. So similarly, identity. So therefore, where do I stay is the identity we are looking for. If staying there gives you staying in another country gives you that bliss, that is your identity. Some people say, "Oh no, I'm not actually, I'm not very comfortable in another country, right? I've been there. Somehow I'm not comfortable, but yet they're not acting on it. Means what?
Mm.
Somewhere there, they are not able to understand their own identity. They actually want to stay there. Otherwise, they would have made all the attempt to sort of move to a country where they would have actually liked it. This is very common at our workplace. Correct? People
Yeah.
keep on saying, "No, no, yeah, I'm very fed up from this place. I want to go to some other place." Right? So, which is that place they find it hard to define because they actually like working in this organization. They may have a lot of discomfitures in this role, but they still want it because they believe that they're better suited here than in another place. So I think
Right.
that's how you define, get your identity.
So I think one has to be quite authentic to themselves, sit down and make this decision. Right. Another question, while you were you know talking about, one is the thing is that how, like, there is a concept of being dasa. So, like, basically the total surrenderance, that I don't have so much of control in my hand. So how do I look at this perspective? Because it sounds that I don't have anything in my control. Like, so how do I reconcile this thought, basically?
Yeah, so it is like this, Santosh. We've answered this question before as well. There is a very famous, kriti. It's a Dasa Sahitya kriti which says, "Dasa Nagu Vishesha Nagu." That means when you become Haridasa, you become Vishesha. That means special, right? So I'll
Right.
give you another example like this. For example, we just say somebody is a executive assistant. We just say that, right? In a company, people say, oh, okay, must be a clerical post. Or, oh, it's an assistant role. I don't know. It may not be very senior. Then suddenly we say that person is the executive assistant to the CEO. We would have seen job description. It is written. This position reports into CEO. This
Yeah.
position reports to the senior most person. What does it tell you? That though the description is what it is actually elevating that position into a higher, into making it a very respectable, very commendable, and very powerful position in that organization, right?
Right.
So, what do people, IAS officers? What are they called? It's so, it's such a coveted position all the time. And what do we call them? We call them government servants, right? But so when somebody says he's a dasa, he is Haridasa, your servant, yes, but to whom? To the Lord Almighty, right? You're
Yeah.
doing it after complete surrender. That means you're an extremely knowledgeable person. You're the most knowledgeable person in the world because you have understood that you are completely dependent on him. So the
Okay.
relationship between us and God, when we say dasa, what is this dasa called? Dasa bhava is defined differently in Shastric terms. Dasa bhava is nothing but bimba and pratibimba. That means God is the image, is the object, and jiva, the soul, is the image.
Right.
The object moves, the image moves. The dependency on these two, we understand, is how much? Is 100%. Because
Correct.
the image has no existence without the object being there. It doesn't have any
Right.
existence. There's no object. There is no image. And the moment the object moves, the image moves exactly, not an inch less, not an inch more. So this is a reality. We have to face the reality. And the person who understands that, and instead of looking at that person, we also serve, right? When you look at a doctor touches the feet of a patient, who's got a probably a wound in the leg. That the mother takes care of the child, doing all kinds of things, serving the child. Do we call them dasas? Right? We
Yeah.
don't, because that's an elevated, very, very highly elevated position. This we are doing out of karunya or because of sympathy, but the love that we have for God is because looking at his, great qualities that he has, that we pray to him. That dasatva is very different. So there
Okay.
is absolutely, it's a pleasure and it's a privilege being in Haridasa.
Right. Another last question of mine. Uh, Simply like becoming an adherent bhakta and then following all the shastric, uh, you know, mm, the path. Do we finally understand our purpose? I mean, that's how it sounds like. There is a pathway, and there's a you need to study shastras. You need to do have bhakti towards God. Will that lead to knowing ourself and purpose?
Absolutely. That is the prescribed path that all of us are in, where your study of your scriptures will tell us exactly who we are. We will talk about who the God is, which is the larger part of it, and how we are on the path to reach Him. But the important thing in this is not to study the scriptures only from an intellectual perspective. There has to be an
Right.
emotion, there has to be a commitment that you give. There is an emotion involved, right? Just trying to say, okay, look, I've just understood this. You told me, I understood this. It is like the student who just learns just to write an exam. Yes, he gets his marks. So if you read, if you try to understand only at an intellectual level, it is not a full understanding of the scriptures. The purpose of the ultimate idea of writing the scriptures was to give us a complete understanding of who God is to the best possible extent, because we know none of the scriptures can completely describe God, but it is an attempt to give us a direction in which we can go. And this is a continuous journey toward that bliss. As I told you, Santosh, not only is it important to look at the destination, but our journey also
Journey is also.
is equally enjoyable. Yeah. Let us enjoy
But
both.
why is it so hard? Like, you gave me one example of like waking up early at 5, and the alarm rings, and we put it to snooze. But why is it so difficult? We know that this is the right path, and this is no that we have to do, but still we struggle.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is
because
something
I think our jiva knows what is right and what is wrong, but I think why do we just still complicate?
yeah. So I think we, by nature, it is always hard for us to do things which are straightforward, right? We have that ability, that unique ability to confuse ourselves a lot, and there could be other reasons for this, which is that we are getting conflicting messages. We were never told at the right time, maybe when we were young, to do this, but all this, I think, is just symptomatic. The real reason we don't do this is that we do not have that strong sense of identity, right? And that sense of purpose which comes because of that identity, right? So let me give you two examples, one from the scriptures and some other one from our own life. The scriptures, in we all know Hanuman went to Lanka, and before the war happened, and he landed up destroying the whole Ashoka garden, and finally he landed in front of Ravana. Ravana asked him this question, "Who are you?" And Hanuman could have given any response. He could have said, "I'm Kesari's son, I'm Anjana's son, I have jumped, I'm the guy who jumped across the ocean, I've killed so many of your people, I've destroyed this garden, I've done things which nobody ever could do to you." He doesn't tell any of that. He has got only one answer. He said, Dasoham Kosalendrasya. That means Kosalendrasya is Rama and I am his servant. And that definition, that clarity that he has, right, in the way he starts, is the way Hanuman starts, is talks a little bit about his own identity. Let me give you another example. Similar thing. Before he takes a leap, you read Sundarakanda, which is part of Mahabharata Tatpanirnaya, and Sundarakanda, which is a part of the of Valmiki Ramayana. In both of them, how he jumped from the mountain has got two different ways it has been described. In Mahabharata Tatparnirnaya, Madhvacharya, who is the incarnation of Lord Vayu, in other words, incarnation of Hanuman himself, he recites a prayer. Ramaya Shashvata Suvisrita Shadgunaya, Sarveshwaraya, Balavirya Maharnavaya, and so on. So he recites that shloka and then jumps because that is what he did. He knows what he did. It's his autobiography. Whereas somebody else, like Valmiki, heard it from somebody else. So he's got other ways that he's talking about. You ask a student who's about to start his exam, what is he going to do? He will remember all the 33 crore gods who exist in his universe, right?
Yeah.
So it is very clear what our identity gives us that ability to make those decisions. 5 o'clock, a person who's absolutely committed does not flinch. He wakes up at 5 o'clock, no matter how difficult it is. You know why? Because for him, waking up at 5 o'clock and studying gives him happiness. He's not doing it only because he's got to get marks. Yes, that is one part of it. But he enjoys the basic topic of studies, right?
Yeah.
So even when we say, "Oh my God, I have to wake up, go to the office and work," somewhere there in that work, we are also getting some happiness. That is why we are doing it.
Right.
Today is Sunday, tomorrow is the Monday. Everybody has Monday morning blues. But at the end of the day, we all love our work. After a few hours in Monday, we are actually okay with the work
Correct.
we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't have worked in that organization or worked in that role. So I think somewhere there, we can make it easy for ourselves. Imagine people read scriptures at a younger age. They get to know and are able to define their identity in a better way in the beginning of their life.
That's correct.
A law, it's a time saving device because from then on, everything will become more and more clear. The decisions that they make will become
True.
easier if one knows one's identity. So today, our identity, our purpose in the Madhvacharya for the youth is to take that Vaita philosophy and take it to the global stage. People
True.
have every right and they are entitled to listening to an alternate perspective about philosophy. So if you define that faster, it becomes easy for us to decide what we talk about.
Right. So then moving on. So we have a question from Raghavendran K. So he's saying, can pure Atma experience joy or sorrow without Sharira? So Indriyas
Yes.
are required to experience Ananda. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, the Indriyas are not required for us to experience that. The soul can experience it all by himself. It is the senses which, if not trained properly, they can actually become barriers for us to, experience that happiness.
Okay. Moving on, another question from Vishal Ramesh. So I think, how does Tattvada interpret other philosophies or philosophy's opinion that the self-realization, there has to be an object and subject relationship. So he's trying to say Atma merges with the Brahman and Brahma is all that there is. So I think what is the other is, I think Tattvada interpret other philosophy opinion that are at that the time of self-realization that there is no subject-object relationship.
Sorry, I don't think I understood the question very clearly, but I can tell the Dvaita interpretation is very clear that the Brahman and the Jivatma, Paramatma and Jivatma will never become equal. The Jivatma enters the Paramatma and he stays there at the time of the Pralaya Kala, at the time of Pralaya. But at the moment they never fuse and they never become equal. So there is never
Okay.
an equality between both of them.
Okay. Um, huh. What exactly is meditation technique? Uh, and is meditation on God only, or focus on breath, or affirmations, etc.? So it's trying to say is what is the focus basically?
Yeah. So the Shastric way of meditation is mantrika. That means it is focused on God and contemplating on God. We need to go to a ordained guru and take the upadesha from him and chant that, and through that it will the understanding of the God about his qualities will start to manifest. Whatever we have studied, that is Shravana and Manana that we have done, slowly starts to percolate into that Dhyana stage, and that is called the Nididhyasana stage.
Right. Moving on, another
So with
question
that,
from
of course,
Vasudev.
for things like the breath control come as a part of that. We all know the pranayama technique, which is again control of breath. All that are techniques. But what does
So
one do during meditation is meditation on God. Yeah.
Vasudev Puranik, a question from him. If God decides what is supposed to happen, does does the soul have an ability to change the course?
No, the soul is, as we said, is a completely dependent entity. He cannot change the course of what it is. It will things will happen only as per God's will
Okay.
and the nature of the soul. It is not dependent on anything else. So God is the ultimate controller of everything that happens in this universe.
So you're trying to say the nature can change on his decision?
Yes, if the God decides to change the path of the soul is going to take, he can influence it. He can change it, but it cannot be done at the behest of the soul.
Okay. Arti Sudarshan is asking, how can you please quote few instances from our scriptures that Jiva does not become one with Brahman in moksha? I think he's asking for a quotation.
So yes, of course, there are a lot of so this topic that we are looking at. We have a separate topic. Santosh is going to introduce that shortly. The topics of Aham Brahmasman, Aham Brahmasmi, and other related of Tattvamasi, etc., are going to be discussed in detail. We will look at a lot more quotations and stories during that period. But it is very simple. The thing is that when you look at the topic of we fusing with God, when does that happen? That will happen when two entities
Yeah.
are similar, and when they
Correct.
merge, you cannot make out the difference, right? For example, you look at water, which is, as you know, colorless. You add some red ink into it, right? Wherever that red, after some time, the whole thing will become red. But there is it is not transparent anymore or colorless anymore, right?
Yeah.
There is an element which is there which is there as white and which is there as red. Similarly, you add water to milk, you mixed it, everything has become one now. But when you boil it, it again separates, right? So it appears to us that they have merged. They have not merged, right? This is the unique contribution of the Dvaita philosophy in understanding that just because something looks similar, it is not.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like that. There are certain similarities between Jivatma and Paramatma. The things which they are similar about, for example, both of them are anadi. They've been there for forever. They both of them have Ananda and Gnana as the true Swarupa. But the big difference is their quantum. It is like saying that, we are everybody in this world has money, but that does not make everybody a billionaire. So the difference between a billionaire and another person is the quantum of qualities that they have, so on and so forth. But that's a very interesting question. Uh, the way I can give you a very simple example. See, the whole Veda, set of Vedas, which are, by the way, infinite in number. Ananto Vai Veda. All the Vedas, everywhere it is very clear that Brahman and the Jivatma are different. Now there are four or five topics, four or five junctions. Then it looks like it is at the peripheral view. It shows that they are same, or they are Aikya. They are actually the same. So let me tell you this. I have given you four books, each of 1,000 pages, right? So you can imagine the amount of how many shlokas, how much of knowledge, how many lessons are there in those 4,000 pages. Now, after some time, you read all those 4,000 pages, which are all telling you one thing, and you pick up those four things, which, for whatever reason, you believe are different from the other 4,000 what lessons from the other 4,000 lessons. And you say the main purpose of the Vedas is to say that to give these four lessons.
Not
It
right.
is a gross suboptimalization of that. If that was the case, that would have been the mainstream lesson in every part of the Vedas. Nowhere is it said that Brahma and soul become the same. It's not in our experience at all. Nobody has ever come back to tell us that it is the same. Every minute, every moment in our life, we are able to see our own limitations. Why do we need any scriptures for this? We can feel it ourselves. So it's an interesting topic. Obviously, there will be views and counter views. We love the debate that is there. It only helps us refine our understanding. And finally, what does Madhvacharya says? That whatever is our own experience, we'll go by that. Nacha
True.
anubhavirode agamartham pramanyam, he says. Scriptures can say what they want, but is it our experience? The experience that we have got from Shavana Manana, the Nididhyasa, what is that telling you? What is that 11th sense, which is your Sakshi Indriya? What is that telling you? That is the lesson which will sustain from you. So, interesting topic. Please stay with us. This is the topic which is the crux of the whole Brahma Sutra discussion, which will happen in the next few sessions. And please stand by that. So, in that whole lesson, in the whole picture that we talked about body, soul, etc., there is one more circle after soul, which I have not drawn because I didn't want to confuse. What is that innermost circle after soul as well is something which is a topic for the next few sessions.
Right. Uh, Last question, Sundar, from Shreya Rao. Do we get bliss on attaining moksha even if the innate nature of our soul is something negative? Like a soul whose innate nature is depressed soul or jealousy, will they also get happiness or bliss?
Yes. So clearly, that's why I started by saying that we will go with the assumption in this case, for the purpose of this discussion, that these souls we are talking about the sattvic souls. Sri Jaitirtha very clearly qualifies that both in Anuvyakhyana, in Srimad Nyaya Sudha and Tattva Prakashika, which are his commentaries, saying that when we are talking about this, our soul is typically the assumption here is it's a sattvic soul. So this thing about that Gnanandamayatva is talked only about sattvic souls. Now, why do we talk like this? Why didn't we talk about the other two? Is because it is very evident that the ones which do not have that the state of infinite happiness, not infinite, but state of happiness and knowledge are not the sattvika souls. They are more towards the tamasic or the rajasa souls. So everything is proportionate to the amount of happiness that is there. If it is Rajasa, it will be mixed. They will experience that happiness that they are entitled to in that mixed environment, in that mixed proportion. And the ones which are tamasic will not experience any happiness. because it's not in their nature, right? So this nature of the soul will determine everything.
Yeah.
Do we ever say white milk? Milk is always white. So there is nothing like white milk.
It's
Milk
always.
means white. So it's the inherent nature of that. Tar is black. There is nothing like black tar. So that's how we define it. Again, we'll see more about it in detail. But the short answer is yes. It is to only for sattvic souls.
Another interesting question from Kulkarni Narayan Rao. So it is said that Jiva is Anadi. Is that is Jiva is not created by God? Then how to explain Bimba Pratibimba concept?
So Bimba Pratibimba concept
Seriously,
has got, sorry, has got nothing to do with this. It is actually to show the mutual dependence. So when Jiva is also Anadi, God is also Anadi. But in that state, before the start of the creation, all the souls are within God. The Bhagavata describes that in great detail. And slowly these souls start to come out. And coming out of that is completely dependent on the will of the God. He is the one who brings those souls into this world, into this universe. And why and how does he do it? By giving them a body. That is why our body is not fixed. It is purely dependent on his discretion what body we take. So today I'm born as a human being, next time I could become a mosquito. That is dependent on his will and my karma, which again is controlled by him. That absolute control, that sense of control that Paramatma has over the Jivatma defines the relationship of Bimba Pratibimba.
right. I think Sundar, there are a lot of questions actually pouring in. Shekhar Tanda is asking, is there any other forums that we can take these discussions on? I think since it's a series, we will be discussing in greater length. So you can join in subsequent sessions where we will be discussing these concepts again, so that the concepts gets more clearer and clearer.
Yes. So I think this forum definitely we will continue this. In fact, periodically we have also been, you know, getting in sessions which are purely focused on question and answer. Santosh, as you know, you yourself have conducted that session 2-3 times with me. So we will have that. Second thing is that shortly Santosh will also be sharing all the email IDs where you
Yeah.
can interact with us. You would send the questions over. We could either answer it in the in the forum, or we could answer it by email as well. We do that a lot, by the way. Between two workshops, we get anywhere between 20 to 25 questions that come to us. Some of them write directly to me, some of them write to the Madhvacharya for the Youth Gmail ID. So we do that. The compile, and by the way, we've also been compiling the answers to all these questions. Our two leaders, Anil Kongovi and Varun, both of them are working hard in the background to ensure that all these FAQs are taken into account. And we will be putting all this question and answer as FAQs in our new website, which is right now under construction. We should have that up and running in a few months' time. But you can send us the questions, or you can ask that to be answered in the next workshop as well.
Right. Cool. Thanks, Sundar. So moving on. So the next session, which is on 15th August, will be on what is my purpose, defining why we exist. That's quite an interesting topic where we'll be bringing back these concepts into our next workshop. Then followed by 5th September, the other perspective on Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi. And then 3rd October, the power of chanting, which is Japa Dhyana and Tapas. So request to all participants. So as Sundar told, like people can suggest topics if you have any questions on how to better this platform, or if you want to become a volunteer with us, you can write into us at madhvacharya numerical 4 youth at gmail.com. And also follow us on different social media platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. So the handle is Madhvacharya for youth. So the next workshop is what is my purpose, which is defining why we exist. So before we wrap up, so Sundar, do you have any final thoughts before we conclude?
No, Santosh, I think we have already overshot the time.
Yeah.
We our only regret in conducting this workshop is the fact that we do not have enough time to answer all the questions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What we want to do definitely is we always compile these questions which are there, and one of our volunteers, she sends it to us, and we answer it and keep it in the part of the FAQs. If
Yeah.
anybody wants to ask us the question, please, as Santosh has suggested, please write to that. We will cut and paste all those details in the comments column after this goes on YouTube. So you can go to YouTube, you'll find this workshop, and in the comment section, the first comment will be ours, where we will post these things so that you can just click on that and mail directly or interact with us on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or any other format you want. But really, I think what we have tried to do here, this is a very vast topic, and it is a very abstract topic also. It becomes slightly difficult sometimes to explain it, especially in the form of a lecture. This is very easily understood if we have patha, that is like a classroom session where we go shloka by shloka, looking at that these topics in greater detail. In our new endeavor that we are doing with the website, we will introduce the Pata sessions as well, creating content in the background as we speak for us to engage. But very, very encouraged to see that so many people are interested in this topic, which again is a great tribute to the fact that people are already on that path, on that spiritual path. So this is the essence of philosophy. Essence of philosophy is not just rituals. They are very, very important. Rituals, karma charane as we call it, is extremely important. But what is more important than that, and it's very clear, the Brahma Sutras are super, super clear on this, saying that Nana villade moksha villa. That is what is Vijayadasara's, one line summary, 4 word summary of the Shastras. That is, which is Nana is very, very important. And it's great to see everybody making so much of effort to study our scriptures, learn more about it. We are happy that we can play a small part in this. And if you've got people excited to do this, I would urge everybody on this group and whoever is listening to us to take up the study of the Madhva Shastra. It's great to listen to lectures, it's great to be in that environment, read a few things here and there. But I think what gives us the thorough understanding to be in a classroom setting with a knowledgeable guru and learn from that person about our scriptures. That will give us even a small little bit of understanding of our scriptures can take us a very long. So thanks to all of you for being here. And thanks to Santosh for the session. We have a team of very big team of volunteers who are working tirelessly to make these sessions happen. Thanks to all of them, and thanks to our leaders, Anil
Right.
Kongavi and Varun, who always are at the forefront of making these things happen, as also Santosh and Prithvi, who are helping us, create the content for these workshops. And there's a team of people who do a lot of things like social media, etc. So if any one of you want to join us as volunteers, please do let us know how you can contribute through design work, through website work, to writing content, to helping us with translations, whatever you want to do, please do get in touch with us. Thank you, Santosh.
Thanks, Sudha, for your time, and thanks all the participants who have joined in. So thanks for your time, and we'll be looking for you guys in the next session, which is uh, which is on 15th August. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Namaskar.